Hello guys, you are here with Dave Jose, and I want to talk to you a little bit about government and trust. Now, what I want you to realize is really funny is that government officials, attorneys never come out and start teaching we the people about the government as trust or any relationship or even talk about it. It's not until we start teaching you that they want to say that it's not a trust, that there is no such thing of a trust indenture with government, where we're going to break that today. Let's dig in. So, in order to give you a little bit of scholarly wisdom, I'm going to read from page 1139 and 1140 in the Public Trust scholarly article. Let's see what it says. Starting where it says both federal. Both Federalists and Anti-Federalists agreed that an official exceeding the scope of his limited powers thereby breached the public trust. Now, how can you breach the public trust if government isn't in trust? Let's go deeper. An Anti-Federalist writer, a citizen of Maryland, quoted Lord Abington with approval. "My idea of government, to speak as a lawyer would do, is that the legislatures are trustees of the people, the Constitution the deed of gift." Guys, realize what in the world they're saying when they say deed of gift. It's going to be very important when we understand trust indentures, and we'll get into it. Real quick, deed of gift, a legal agreement to give land or property to someone without charging them any money. But that doesn't mean they don't have obligations. Let's continue. Let's keep going. Wherein they stood seized to uses only, and those uses being named, they cannot depart from them, but for their due performance are accountable to those by whose conveyance the trust was made. The right is therefore fiduciary, the power limited. The drafters of the constitutions included several provisions designed to promote and enforce. See, they say there's no enforcement. Show me the enforcement mechanism. The duty to follow instructions. See, guys, they have to follow the Constitution as the instructions of the trust. But they tell you that it's not a trust and there's no trust indenture. We're going to continue. In the preamble, they set forth the purposes of the trust. See, the preamble tells you the spirit by which we're coming together to make the trust, including the promotion of the general welfare. They enumerated the powers of Congress. That's the duties of the government officials, the duties of the trustees, president, and courts. Watch this. So as to instruct federal fiduciaries on what they could and could not do. The Constitution was to be the supreme law of the land, thereby empowering courts to invalidate statutes and other official actions outside of the scope of or otherwise in violation of the rules of the trust. Now, guys, I'm going to need you to help me to understand why actors as attorneys are coming and telling the people that the constitutions are not trust. Look at 1141. While fully subscribing to the public trust doctrine, Anti-Federalists argued that the Constitution would not do an adequate job of forcing government officials to honor the rules. Among other contentions, they maintained that the Constitution should have specified with greater precision exactly what federal officials were and were not permitted to do. Right? So we understand that these people as forefathers thought of the constitutions as trust. Now we're going to go deeper. Now, some would like you to believe that this is just an honor system, but I want you to just see part of page 1123. You're going to see a quote there. It says, "Yet the reflections," I'm going to start here, "also feature much public trust language. See Edmund Burke, Reflections on Revolution in France." It says, "The interest of that portion of social arrangement is a trust in the hands of all those who compose it. And as none but bad men would justify it in abuse, none but traitors would barter it away for their own personal advantage. Now, we were having a discussion with dear Leah Cushman and a gentleman named Dan Itzay and others, a guy who works in the family court who didn't give us full disclosure, named Adam Waite from Vermont, I believe. But notice what it says here, that he may secure some liberty, the citizen makes a surrender in trust of the whole of it. All persons possessing any portion of power ought to be strongly and awfully impressed with an idea that they act in trust and that they are to account for the conduct in that trust. Now, guys, this was common understanding and knowledge back in the day, here and overseas. But for some reason, people want us to believe that it is okay to not carry out the duties of your trust. Let's dig deeper. Now, guys, this is going to be exceptionally powerful, so let's make sure we look closely. It says, like Locke, Trenchard, and Gordon argued that breaches of public trust were greater than merely private breaches. Now, you could go to jail for private breaches of trust, guys. But watch this. From this, it followed that the standard imposed on public trustees ought to be high. Now, why aren't people telling you this as government servants? Let's look deeper. It says, government is therefore a trust, which ought to be bounded with many and strong restraints, because power renders men wanton, insolent, and others, and fond of themselves. See, we have a situation in New Hampshire right now where a gentleman is bragging in government, calling people sovereign citizens, talking trash because he doesn't understand they're telling him correctly. But let's see what else is said. It says, every violation, therefore, of this trust, where such violation is considerable, ought to be met with proportionable punishment, and the smallest violation of it to meet with some, because indulgence to the least faults of magistrates may be cruelty to a whole people. Now, let's look at the fact that Leah Cushman opened the doors for a committee to be placed in order to help people who had their kids unlawfully taken by CPS. Now, the problem is that a lot of people in government and a lot of people in the world don't know the rights of the trust, because we've established that this is a trust. So let's keep reading. Trenchner and Gordon considered it a breach of trust to trammel freedom of speech, to divert public resources to private purposes. They take public resources to do private programs with CPS, Highway Safety Act, etc., and they're not giving full disclosure. Or not to follow the law and other fixed and stated rules. So when they don't follow the laws of election, they're breaking the law, and every single encroachment is to be punished. Executing the public trust did not require a Superman. Honestly, diligence and plain sense are the only talents necessary for the executing of this trust, and the public good is its only end. Amen, guys. Guys, God is powerful, and he is showing you that you have to execute the trust. So what does it mean when you have to execute the trust? Well, we need to understand some words. For instance, like trust instrument, right? We need to understand trust instruments and trust indentures. So we're going to go into that. Okay, guys, so we're going to look at Black's Law 5th definition, trust instrument. What is it? Because we don't use this a lot. The formal document which creates the trust. So the trust is the separate entity. The formal document that creates this is the trust instrument, which we just read. And what does it contain? And contains the powers of the trustees and the rights of the beneficiaries. It may be a deed in trust or a formal declaration of trust. See also trust deeds. So remember, the trust instrument is the thing that creates the trust, and it shows the powers of the trustees and the rights of the beneficiaries. Keep that close in mind, guys, because we're dealing with something that deals with private law and we're using it in the public. So let's check it out. Okay, guys, now we're going to deal with the Black's Law fifth word, trust indenture, which your state constitutions are trust indentures. Notice that it means the same thing as the trust instrument. And the attorneys don't know this because they don't study the old law and the definitions. Trust indenture, the document which contains the terms and conditions which govern the conduct of who? The trustee, and the rights of beneficiaries. Commonly used when a corporation floats bonds. See, guys, now there is a financial exchange with the people and their servants. You actually are giving property to them to create the trust. Bad actors don't know this. You're also allowing them to control finances that come from you as well. But guys, the trust indenture is simply the document that contains the terms and conditions which govern the conduct of the trustees and the rights of the beneficiaries. Your Bill of Rights is the right of the beneficiaries, and the conduct of the trustees is the instrument, is the frame of government that all government officials I just showed you must follow the instructions of the trust. The instructions are not the trust. The instructions are the indenture or the trust instrument. Let's get it. Okay, guys, so in order to end this video the right way, we see where it says, however, other state constitutions were more specific about the nature of government as a public trust. For example, the Constitution of Maryland provided that all persons invested with the legislative and executive powers of government are the trustees of the public, and, as such, accountable for their conduct. Wherefore, whenever the ends of government are perverted, and public liberty manifestly endangered, and all other means of redress are ineffectual, the people may, and of right, ought to reform the old or establish a new government. So let me help you understand. See, when bad actors in government say dumb stuff like, hey, well, the way it works now is we don't pay attention to you because nobody says we had to for a long time. And our attorneys say that we can rip you off, take your stuff, steal your kids. We don't need trials by jury. We don't need to go to court to take your car, your money, your house. And they're making money off of it. I can show you guys later that they're attacking the trust, and that's a criminal action. But when you look here, when you are giving them notice, remonstrance, address, etc., trying to tell them what's wrong, those are called means of redress. And when they're ineffectual, the people have a guaranteed right to reform, change the whole government. Reform, fix it, or establish an entirely new government differing from the others, which in that case, you can prosecute everybody who did wrong against the people. Now, if anybody would like to challenge what I'm saying, please show us proof where the law doesn't say this. But for you guys who are trying to do the right thing, be blessed, understand the truth, and stand on it. Don't allow anybody to mess up your life by telling you you can attack the people you swore to protect and trust on purpose. It doesn't make sense. We love you. Praise God. This video is yours.